Some lions are more than kings of the wild. They're legends whose lives could be movie scripts. There's the real Scar from The Lion King, a battle-marked ruler who truly walked Africa's plains. The lion whose shocking death made headlines across the globe.
Uproar tonight over that hunter who killed Cecil the Lion.
A fearless lioness whose life inspired an Oscar-winning film. Two maneless killers that hunted men, over 135 of them, turning railway camps into nightmares. The lion whose iconic roar has opened every MGM movie for decades, and the real-life Aslan from Narnia, with a mane as white as snow. In this episode of Forever Green, you'll see the world's most famous lions and their stories that will make you see lions like never before. So let's dive in. 15. Scarface, Maasai Lion. Remember Scar from Disney's The Lion King? Scarface was the real thing, only his battles were no animation. Born in 2008 in Kenya's Masai Mara, Scarface got his name after a vicious 2012 fight left his right eye half closed. His mane was thick and black, the kind artists dream of drawing, and his reputation matched him. Alongside his brothers Moriani, Sikio, and Hunter, he controlled multiple prides and ruled over more land than most lion coalitions ever hold. He survived a spear wound during a clash with herders, countless fights with rival males, and injuries that would have ended other lions' reign. National Geographic and BBC Earth followed him for years, making him one of the most photographed wild lions on Earth. Even in his last days, limping, thin, and old, he patrolled his territory. On June 11, 2021, he died peacefully under an acacia tree, leaving behind a legend that blends wildlife reality with Disney's most famous villain. 14. Moya. If Aslan from the Chronicles of Narnia were real, he'd look like Moya. This rare white maned lion lives at Glen Gareth Conservation Sanctuary in South Africa and became a global internet sensation after photographers captured him walking through golden grass like something from a fantasy film. Moya isn't an albino. His striking pale color is caused by a rare, recessive gene found in some lions of the Tambati region. Born in captivity for conservation, he's one of the few white lions in the world allowed to live freely in a protected reserve. His flowing white mane makes him a favorite for wildlife photographers and magazines. His pictures have been featured in Daily Mail, National Geographic, and countless social media posts. While Moya doesn't face rival coalitions or hunt for survival, he carries a different kind of importance, keeping the white lion gene alive for future generations. 13. The Tsavo Man-Eaters, maneless lions. Ever seen the Ghost in the Darkness movie? It's based on these two. In 1898, during construction of the Kenya-Uganda Railway, workers in Tsavo started vanishing at night. Two massive maneless male lions were stalking the camps, dragging men from their tents and eating them. Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson, in charge of the railway, spent 9 months trying to stop them. By the time he shot both lions, over 35 workers had been killed. Locals claim the number was closer to 135. The lion skins and skulls were eventually sold to Chicago's Field Museum, where they're still on display today. Scientists believe their maneless look and taste for humans came from a mix of bad teeth and easy prey. Over a century later, the Tsavo Man-Eaters remain one of the deadliest predator stories in history. 12. Leo the MGM Lion. You've seen him countless times right before a movie starts, roaring in a golden frame for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. But few know that the MGM lion isn't one animal. It's been a series of lions over the years. The most famous was Leo, a Barbary lion used in the logo from 1957 to 2021. Unlike his predecessors, who often just growled, Leo gave a full, deep roar that became cinema's most famous opening. Born in 1956, he was trained by legendary animal trainer Ralph Helfer and appeared not just in the MGM logo, but in ads and charity events. Leo's calm temperament made him a star. He once sat in the passenger seat of Helfer's car during a parade. His image is still used by MGM, making him arguably the most seen lion in history, watched by billions worldwide. If you like this video so far, leave a like, and you can also check out This is the Most Powerful Lion in the World on our channel Forever Green. 11. Christian, Transvaal Lion. If you've seen the viral YouTube video of a lion hugging two men after years apart, this is him. Christian started life in 1969 inside Harrods department store in London, back when selling exotic animals was legal. Australians John Rendall and Anthony Bork bought him and raised him in their Chelsea flat. He strolled Kings Road on a leash, played in their furniture shop, and posed for magazine photos. But as he grew, they knew city life was no place for a lion. Through George Admonson, the legendary conservationist from Born Free, Christian was released into Kenya's Kora National Reserve. A year later, his former owners returned. Cameras rolled as Christian spotted them, ran across the clearing and wrapped them in a hug, purring and licking like an overgrown cat. The footage has been watched millions of times and remains one of the internet's most emotional reunions. After 1973, Christian disappeared into the wild, likely leading a pride of his own. 10. Cecil, Southwest African Lion. Think of how Mufasa's death in The Lion King shook audiences. Cecil's killing in 2015 hit the real world even harder.
Uproar tonight over that hunter who killed Cecil the Lion.
Born around 2002 in Zimbabwe's Hwang National Park, Cecil was a striking male with a black-tipped mane that made him instantly recognizable. He became the face of Oxford University's Lion Research Program and a top tourist draw. But on July 1, 2015, he was lured out of the park, shot with a bow, and left wounded for hours before being killed. The news went global. Jimmy Kimmel cried on live TV.
You want to make this into a positive, you can, sorry.
Ricky Gervais called for justice, and debates over trophy hunting hit political floors worldwide. Zimbabwe quickly banned certain hunts, but Cecil's death had already turned him into a martyr for conservation. His pride, defended by his sons including Xanda, kept his bloodline alive. His story remains one of the most famous wildlife tragedies of this century. Fang, the Broken-Toothed King. If Disney ever needed a real-life Simba who grew into a scarred king, they'd pick Fang. The male of the marsh pride in Kenya's Masai Mara was easily recognizable, not for his mane, but for the large broken right canine that hung awkwardly from his mouth. Despite his injury, Fang led the pride for years, hunting buffalo and defending his territory from rival males. He was featured in Disney's Nature's African Cats in 2011, narrated by Samuel L. Jackson, which followed his life and struggles.
Fang sees it's 2 against 1. His chances are slim.
In the film, audiences saw Fang battle hyenas, protect cubs, and face the constant threat of takeover. His broken tooth became a symbol of grit and survival, making him one of the most beloved lions in documentary history. Even after he lost dominance, Fang stayed in the territory, often spotted lounging in the shade like an old general watching the next generation take over. Before proceeding to our next selection, we invite you to explore our video on 7 animals that can kill a lion easily. Now, back to our list. 8. Elsa, East African Lioness. If you've read Born Free or seen the 1966 Oscar-winning film, you already know Elsa. It began in 1956 when George Admonson, a game warden in Meru National Park, Kenya, killed a charging lioness in self-defense and found 3 cubs in her den. 2 went to a zoo, but George, with his wife Joy, kept Elsa and raised her like family, while teaching her to hunt and survive in the wild. Against the odds, Elsa was successfully released and even raised 3 cubs of her own in the park. Joy's book about her became a bestseller, and the movie adaptation turned Elsa into a global conservation symbol. But her story ended tragically. She died in 1961 from a tick-borne disease, leaving her cubs orphaned. Her grave in Meru still draws visitors, and the Born Free Foundation works in her name to free captive wild animals. Elsa's life proved that a lion can be both wild and loved. 7. Frasier, the Sensuous Lion. Imagine an old rock star on his last tour. Now picture him as a lion. Frasier was a Barbary lion hybrid at the Lion Country Safari in California during the early 1970s. He was toothless, half paralyzed, and 19 years old, ancient for a lion. But when zookeepers put him in a pen with 6 lionesses, something strange happened. He became the father of 33 cubs in 16 months. Newspapers called him the sensuous lion, and his fame exploded. He appeared on talk shows, his face was printed on t-shirts, and there was even a 1973 movie loosely based on his life. Sadly, he died in 1972 of natural causes, but his story was so unbelievable it's still retold in zoo history. Scientists never figured out how such an old, frail lion became a breeding machine, but for the public, Frasier proved that legends can come from the unlikeliest of places, even a nearly toothless grandpa lion.
6. Marjan, the one-eyed lion. Marjan wasn't just a zoo animal. He was Afghanistan's most famous survivor. He lived at Kabul Zoo during decades of war, enduring bombings, food shortages, and even a grenade attack. In 1993, a soldier entered Marjan's cage to test his courage. Marjan attacked and killed him instantly. The next day, the soldier's brother threw a grenade into the cage, blinding Marjan in one eye, deafening him, and breaking his jaw. Yet Marjan lived for another 9 years, becoming a national symbol of resilience. Visitors brought him food despite their own struggles, and journalists from around the world came to see the lion who survived everything. When he died in 2002 at the age of 23, his funeral was attended by hundreds. His statue still stands at Kabul Zoo as a reminder of courage in the face of unimaginable hardship. 5. Bob Jr., the Serengeti King. If Scarface was the king of the Mara, Bob Jr. ruled the Serengeti, nicknamed Snigva, meaning handsome in Swedish. He was famous for his massive golden mane that seemed to glow in the sun. Born around 2010, he quickly rose to dominance, ruling the central Serengeti for nearly a decade. Tourists called him the most photogenic lion in Africa, and his calm, regal posture made him a favorite among photographers. But on March the 24th, 2023, his reign ended violently. A coalition of younger males attacked and killed him in a fight for territory. Classic lion politics. His death made headlines worldwide, and Tanzanian park officials called it a natural change of leadership. Bob Jr.'s life and death reminded people that in the wild, no king's crown is forever. 4. Seaboy, the comeback king. Seaboy's story is pure action movie. Nicknamed The Lover by National Geographic researchers, he lived in Tanzania's Serengeti and was known for his charm with lionesses. But in 2009, his life almost ended when a rival coalition called the Killers attacked him. He was mauled badly, his thigh torn open, but somehow survived. For weeks, researchers thought he wouldn't make it. Yet months later, he returned stronger, reclaiming part of his territory and fathering cubs again. His resilience became the subject of multiple National Geographic documentaries, showing the brutal yet awe-worthy survival of wild lions. Seaboy's story proved that even in the deadliest fights, some lions just refuse to go down. Loonkito, the oldest wild lion in Kenya. Think Mufasa's wisdom, but with the battle scars of 100 fights. Loonkito was born in 2004 and roamed Amboseli National Park, Kenya for nearly 2 decades, an age almost unheard of for a wild male lion. Most males are lucky to survive past 12, but Loonkito kept his territory against younger challengers well into his late teens. His mane was silvered with age, his face marked with deep scars from fights over food and females. Locals knew him as a living legend, and his survival made headlines in Kenyan news. But on May 10, 2023, hunger drove him into a livestock pen, a risky move for any wild predator. Villagers speared him to protect their cattle, ending the reign of one of the oldest wild lions ever recorded. Conservationists called his death the loss of a national treasure. 2. Notch, the patriarch of the Mara. If Scarface was the warrior king, Notch was the founding father. Born around 1993 in the Masai Mara, Notch rose to power in the early 2000s and fathered more than 30 cubs. His most famous offspring? The Notch Boys. 5 sons: Notch 2, Mighty Long, Ron, Grimace, and Caesar, who formed one of the most powerful coalitions in African lion history. Together, they controlled vast parts of the Mara for years, taking over prides and spreading their bloodline across Kenya. Wildlife photographers compared them to the Game of Thrones houses, each son carving out territory and defending it fiercely. Notch lived to the age of 15, remarkable for a wild male, and died naturally in 2013. Today, many of the Mara's dominant males trace their lineage back to him, making Notch the true grandfather of the Mara Plains. 1. Xanda, the son of Cecil. If Cecil's death was the first act of a tragedy, Xanda's was the sequel no one wanted. Born around 2008 in Hwange National Park, Zimbabwe, Xanda was one of Cecil's sons and inherited his father's dark mane and calm nature. Researchers kept track of him as he matured into a pride leader, roaming the same lands Cecil once ruled. But in 2017, just 2 years after Cecil's killing, Xanda was shot by a trophy hunter near the park's boundary. The same controversial hunting zone where his father had died. He was only 6 years old. Conservationists were furious, calling it proof that hunting policies hadn't changed enough to protect iconic lions. Xanda left behind cubs, but his death became another rallying cry for wildlife activists pushing for stricter laws around hunting near protected areas. And that's it for today. See you in the next one on Forever Green.